everyone! I thought I would sit down with a cuppa and have a chat with you today because I've got some stuff on my mind. See, I want to talk to you about quite a big subject today. I want to talk about mental health. And yeah, that is one of the biggest things you can talk about. And specifically, I want to talk about what is happening in the UK with mental health services. I've just poured tea all over myself. What a great start! I want to start this video by saying I am 100% passionate about protecting our NHS, not ever letting the UK have some kind of private healthcare system that takes over from the NHS, because for all the faults that the NHS has, we are so lucky to have it be free at the point of use. And long may it stay that way, because honestly, I know I couldn't afford private healthcare with all the many things I've got going on. But over the years, I have 3 times had to go and have counselling on the NHS. Now, if you are somebody who has never been through that process, what you generally get is, I can't remember whether it's 6 or 8 free counselling sessions on the NHS before they decide whether you need to go private or whether you can be given more, or where your next steps should be. What your next steps should be? I mean, you're going in a direction, so where's fine, right? It's been about probably 8 years or more since I last had counselling on the NHS, probably more like 9. So I don't really know how the process is going anymore, or at least I didn't, until I went for a checkup for my asthma at the hospital, and my consultant started asking me if I'd been through any stress recently. Now, I'm not going to go into everything on here, but yeah, I have. So, as well as doing all the lung function tests that I was supposed to have done at the hospital, my consultant was also like, please self-refer for some talking therapy, because I think it would do you the world of good. I wasn't concerned about this, I wasn't offended. I know some people get really weirded out by the idea that they might need mental health support. I am not one of those people. I was just like, do you know what? Yes, I think I probably do need some support. I'm very happy to do this referral because it probably will help. And the day before I went off on my holiday to the Peak District, I had a phone conversation with a counsellor with a view to deciding what my treatment should be. Now, like I said, I have had counselling before on the NHS, but it's been probably at least 8 years, maybe even 9 years since I have had that. So I don't know what the system is anymore, and I just thought, okay, I've got this phone call and I'll talk to someone and then they'll tell me when the date for my first counselling session is. That's not what happened.
No.
Instead, I had this really helpful chat with a counsellor, and I opened up about a lot of stuff that I've either not told anyone or certainly only told like my mum or something. I've kept these things really close. And I opened up to him and I talked, and it was supposed to be like a 45-minute call, and I think it went on for an hour because, you know, as you probably realise, once I get started, I find it hard to stop. In many ways, I'm like a Pringle. And he said to me, I can hear that you are somebody who has kept an awful lot inside, and I can hear that you are someone who is absolutely desperate to be heard. You need to be listened to. You need to feel that the way you're feeling is being taken on board and addressed by people, even if it's just by a professional who you can bounce ideas off, and that will help. I think counselling is absolutely what you need, which I was delighted by because I agree. But then he asked me if I was feeling suicidal or if I was at all in any danger of hurting myself or anyone around me. And the answer was no.
No.
I had no intention of hurting anyone physically, and I certainly wouldn't even hurt someone emotionally on purpose. And I wasn't in a place where I wanted to harm myself physically either. It seemed that because of that, I suddenly was pushed to the bottom of the queue. In fact, I was pushed so far to the bottom of the queue, or the back of the queue, or wherever you want, just not near the start, that I was told there's not really much point in putting you on the waiting list for counselling because you're just not gonna reach the top of it anytime soon. So your best bet is to pay for private counselling. Now, before you start going, oh my God, loads of people have this happen to them, just like cough up and pay the money. I get it. I get that the NHS is stretched. I understand that there are many people out there going through so much more than me. And I do have a support network. I do have a very close family and friends that I can open up to and say, this is going on, can I talk to you about it? Even the stuff that I've kept in and only really spoken to my mum about, I'm like, I know there are people I can open up about it if I need to. So I know I'm in a fortunate position, and I know I don't really want to be at the top of that list, because if I am at the top of that list, it means I'm in danger of harming myself or anyone around me, or I'm at the point where I literally don't want to live anymore, and I don't want to be there. So I get that being really far back in the queue is technically a good thing, but it means that I'm in this position now where, as somebody who is self-employed and doesn't make a huge amount of money, I can't afford to have private counselling. So I'm just sort of here. I know there are cheaper services out there like BetterHelp and places like that, and I'm not averse to contacting these people and maybe having a chat with them because I know that it is less expensive than a private counsellor. But equally, the guy I spoke to on the phone was like,
you really want a proper counsellor? Like, I'll give you a list of the private ones, you really want to go with them.
Which made me think two things. One, I've used BetterHelp and it was really useful, so don't diss them. And two, are you getting a fee for recommending them? Is that what's happening with our NHS? Because that's what really scares me. I know from like having parents who are of a certain age that my dad has gone and said like, I've got this awful pain in my hip, and he's been told he has terrible arthritis and he really needs physio. And it's like, there's a really long waiting list, but here's a list of all the private physios in our area that you could pay to go and have it with. And I'm like, I know it's important there are options if you can't get somebody in to see an NHS professional immediately, but it is starting to feel a little bit like privatisation by the back door, and that scares me. So yeah, mental health services in the UK, I know that over the years they have basically been decimated by previous governments, and that is not great. And I know that we need to have more people working in that area, that sector of the NHS as well. But it does make me worried about the people who need those services and aren't able to access them. Now, they didn't just leave me completely on my own. I am going on a course on how to deal with stress, which is hopefully going to be really useful. It's not for 2.5 months, but I'm sure it'll be useful when it eventually happens. And I'm not dissing waiting lists. I'm not saying we should be able to go and see someone and have the procedure we need tomorrow. I mean, yes, in a perfect world, that would be amazing, but I'm realistic enough to know that that's not something that's going to happen. But I do get a little bit concerned by how far down the line any kind of assistance actually is. And in my case, it's just like, whip out your wallet and pay for it yourself. Now, yes, there are free things I can do. I could call the Samaritans if I really needed to talk to somebody who wasn't a member of my family or a friend, and they do an amazing job, so that's something worth considering. And there's also other charities and organisations where you can go for support. I'm just a bit worried that we're creeping towards this place where it's like, we're not even going to add you to the waiting list because the waiting list is so long. Pay private. that's not something I can afford to do. It's not something I even want to do because I am passionate about preserving our NHS and keeping all of this help, all of this amazing stuff the NHS does, free at the point of use. I just worry about mental health services in the UK. I worry about myself. I know I'm not in a great place right now. I know that I'm much more sensitive than usual. I am taking things to heart that I might usually just flick off and not be worried about. And I know that really, desperately, what I need is to sit down with a professional and have like an hour session where I talk about all these things going on in my brain and they help me slowly unpick it all. But I just feel like I can't afford to go private, so that's not really an option at the moment. I also find it much easier when somebody is sat in front of me and not talking through a screen. I'm not a big fan of Zoom. Also, the last time I had any kind of supposedly helpful conversation via Zoom, it was somebody who had their camera turned off and they told me to shut up. It wasn't a professional counsellor. If it had been, I really would have kicked off.
Who is she? Who is she? Where did you find her?
But that's a long story and clearly a trauma that I am not over. I guess what I'm saying is, if I'm a little bit weird, maybe more weird than normal, I guess it's because my brain is a bit, sad and anxious and stressed and traumatized from being told to shut up. And basically, it just needs some TLC. Sometimes I wish you could, take your brain out of your head and run it a nice bath, maybe pour it a glass of wine, put on some nice music and just, really help it to relax. Unfortunately, that's not something you can do. You have to just keep it in your skull and somehow deal with it. If you've got any mental health tips you would like to share with me, please feel free to do so in the comments. If you're going to be really preachy with me, I will just ignore you though. Not in a place where I want to be preached at, just so you know. I was told on my call that I'm already doing a lot of the things that they would recommend. For example, I am taking some time for myself every evening to sit with a book and read and do nice things for myself, like paint my nails or dye my hair. And I'm also making sure I go for at least one good walk every day so that I clear my mind and get a little bit of exercise. And, I'm washing every day, I'm eating every day, I'm looking after myself. So I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just also struggling a bit. Anyway, I just wanted to have a little bit of a moan about the fact that for all the niceness of the counsellor I spoke to on the phone, I still feel a little bit like they've gone, yes, you definitely need help, but not from us, bye. I asked my mum today what she thought I could do that would suddenly bump me up that list and get me the help I need, and we both agreed that, none of the things that would bump me up that list are worth doing or having in my life because, as previously mentioned, it would mean things were a lot worse. So I guess I'm just gonna, keep on trucking. It's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine. I'm really fine. I'm absolutely great. Things are so good right now. I think I should probably go. I will talk to you all next week. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to leave them in the comments. As I said, if you enjoyed this video or you agree with any of my points, feel free to give this video a thumbs up. Last week's video is over there, and I'm gonna, lie down. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.